So 5 things that I wish I'd known. If you're a note taker, grab a pen. Okay. So number 1 thing I wish I'd known about the online space: bigger is not always better. We're going to start with this one right off the bat. Now, listen, I know that you're going to say, easy for you to say, you have 360,000 followers on Facebook. Okay. I know, but I would rather have a fraction of that following that was super hyper engaged with what I was doing, and that were, would hang on every word, buy everything, and were my actual ideal client. And so, because I have shifted, most of you know that I started out in the painting space. I was a decorative painter, owned a painting company in Kansas City, and it was amazing until it wasn't. And so because of that, a lot of the following that I have built up are people that are coming from the DIY and the painting space. Maybe you guys followed me back when I was painting in DIY. And so that's great. But now that I've completely shifted into coaching, and I've been coaching for almost a solid 5 years, like, not all of those people are anymore my ideal client. Does that make sense? Like, I'm glad they're here. A lot of them are buying my book because my book's not a business book. A lot of them are great, just to be cheering me on. But in terms of numbers of followers, people get really impressed by big numbers. And I can tell you, based on experience, I am way more impressed by really great engagement and really great reach on your page. I would rather you have 1,000 followers on Facebook than and you have people commenting left and right than 100,000 in crickets. I would rather you have 1,000 followers on Instagram who love every single thing you put out, comment on every single thing you do, than the 10,000 on Instagram and you've got the swipe up, but your reach is dead. Does that make sense? Bigger is not always better. I promise you. It makes you feel good. It's what's called a vanity matrix. It's a sexy number that makes you pat yourself on the back. But the truth is, nobody cares. I actually did a podcast episode. I'd have to go back. Why do I always do this? I get started on another podcast episode and then I think about another podcast episode I did a podcast episode once on vanity matrix, and I was talking about things like the number of followers you have. I was also talking about things like, when people say they have a $10 million business, but the truth is, how much did they keep? Because numbers actually matter. Number 2, if you are ready. Number 2 is, you are not for everyone. And I wish that somebody had told me this when I started in the online space, because here's what I thought. I'm a nice person. I do nice things. Everything's going to be great in the online space. People are going to love me. I'm putting out painting and decorating stuff. What is not to love, right? Well, the truth is, you can be the juiciest peach in the whole wide world. I promise you. And there will still be somebody in the online space that does not like peaches. Okay. So listen. The way that I coach women to build a business is to not make your platforms all about you. Because when all things are equal across the board, prices are equal across the board, products are equal across the board, when people know who the business owner is, they are more likely to purchase from somebody that they know, like, and trust, right? Well, anytime you put any of yourself into the online space, you're doing a Facebook Live, you decide to put a podcast out into the world, you maybe write a book that while it was, number 1 bestseller on Amazon for 4 straight weeks, there were still people who didn't like it. Newsflash. And I know the first time that I got a negative comment in my DMs, I was like, what is even happening? Oh my gosh, she's right. I'm an absolute jerk. What am I thinking that I can do this in the online space? It has the capability, if you're not careful, to send you into an absolute tailspin. And so it's interesting how, even if you think that you're not really a people pleaser and you're not really wired for sensitivity, there's something about somebody showing up in your DMs and asking if you're actually Dog the Bounty Hunter's wife that can kind of throw you for a loop. Hashtag true story. There's kind of something about the fact that when somebody shows up in your DMs and they question your faith, they question your, trust me, just trust me when I say they question lots of things. It's funny because I think that people don't really realize that it's actually a thing for people to A, comment negatively, and B, do it in your DMs. And so I screenshot them and I send them to my team. Not because we're going to necessarily do anything about them, but just because I think that it's easy to say, you won't believe what people type. But then when I actually show the people that work for me, they're like, oh my gosh. And I'm like, I tried to tell you, people be crazy on the internet. People be crazy on the internet. And you need to know if you're going to go online that people be crazy and it has nothing to do with you, like zero to do with you. What happens is people get behind their keyboard and they turn into keyboard warriors and they realize that they're not face to face with you. And some of them just go sideways and say things, they type things out to you that I promise you would never say to your face. But the first time that you get one of those, you're going to be like, what is even happening? Shut it all down, burn it all down. And I'm here to tell you that you perhaps will get one, but you've got 999 people who have DM'd you wonderful things. They are so impressed with your product. They love the way you coach. They love what you're putting out into the world. They love the words you write. They love how you come live. They love how you're so vulnerable. Don't worry about the ones that you're losing. Can I do a part? This is like point number 2, but I want to do like a 2.5. The tag on that would be this: quit responding to those people. Quit responding to them. It is not worth your time. The Bible talks about not throwing your pearls on swine, which means you can't win an argument with a fool. You can't. And at the beginning, I wasted too much time to convince people that I'm really a good person. And the truth is, if they've already decided one way about you, you're not going to change their mind with the DMs. I promise you that. So Mark Zuckerberg was kind enough to give us the ban and delete button in all the places. Use it to the glory of God and keep your sanity. Keep your sanity. Also, quit watching your numbers, because a lot of times what happens is when you'll start, your Facebook page, and you'll gain 5 and you'll lose 2, and you'll be like, what? Why are people stopping? Listen, it's stuff you can't even control. It may be people deciding that, Martha's not for me, Stacy's not for me, Carrie's not for me. It might be that, or it just might be that Facebook is doing a clean out and it's getting rid of everybody with duplication accounts. It might just be that Facebook's doing a clean out and they're getting rid of accounts that they think are fraudulent. It might just be that Facebook's doing a clear out and they're getting rid of people who they believe are to be deceased. And so it might not have to do with your content. When you send out an email and you're like, oh my gosh, 5 people unsubscribed, quit looking at that number. Quit looking at what you're losing. Where I want you to do is focus on how can you serve? Who can you serve? Which ones are still here? Serve them to the glory of God. Serve them with all you've got. Email them with all you've got. Post to them with all you've got. But don't worry about the ones you're losing, because you are not for everyone. And if you are for everyone, you're for no one. I know those are tough words, but I love you. Okay, I think there was like 3 points in that. Okay, number 3. I wish that I had known when I first started in the online space to not let fear stop me from so many things in the beginning. So, okay, well, what were you afraid of, Jen? Well, if you got my book, Fear is Not the Boss of You, I go a lot more into my struggle with fear my entire life in Fear is Not the Boss of You. But when I was starting my business, a lot of interesting things popped up for me. One, I was afraid of failure. Of course, everybody is. What if I, take this business online and nobody signs up for my coaching? What if, I really don't know as much as I think that I do? What if, I put something up for sale and nobody buys it? Like, there's all of those fears. Then there's also the opposite of that. And send me a DM and let me know if this is you. There's an equal amount of women who are terrified of success. Now, if you're just starting out in the very beginning of your business, you may say to yourself, I would never be scared of success. I can't wait to hit, $1,000 a month, $100,000 a year, $1 million a year, whatever it may be. Let me just assure you of something. We all have a limit in our brain. We all have some place that starts to make us feel uncomfortable. There is, for every one of us, a place that we think we deserve. And if God gives us more than that, you will go into this, oh my gosh, how can I sustain this mode? I don't know any entrepreneur that hasn't had that happen. So there's an equal number of people scared of fear of failing, as there are of fear of succeeding. The other half of being scared of succeeding is, what's your family going to think about you? What's your Aunt Linda going to say? What's your friends going to say if you start doing that business again? And they may not say anything outright and truthful, but they perhaps will say things like, so you're going to do that little business again, huh? Oh, so you start making a little money. Now you're too good to hang out with us, huh? Those are real life things that happen when you start shifting what you're doing and seeing some success. And so just know that if you're shifting into the online space, or if you are pushing the gas in the online space, that you're going to feel very vulnerable. And you're probably going to fluctuate between what if I fail? What if I succeed? What if I fail? What if I succeed? I want you to know you're so normal, so normal. We all struggle with these fears. Promise me, even myself, who's this far into this business, and on the outside, it all looks amazing, right? But I still have times when I still like, what if it all goes down in flames? What if, what if everybody finds out that suddenly I really don't know how to do X, Y, Z? It's amazing what our brain can do. I wish somebody had told me when I was starting the online space that fear was going to be a real thing at every single level. And at every level, there's a new devil. I love that saying from Joyce Myers. And that I was just going to have to work through it at every level. And the same, I guarantee, will probably happen for you. I wish that I hadn't let fear stop me in the beginning as much as I had. Number 4, things I wish that I had done earlier in the online space. I wish that I hadn't done it alone, because doing it alone is super lonely. Listen, 5 years ago almost is when I started my coaching group, my inner circle. The reason, you guys, that I started my coaching group is because I could not find a coaching group of creatives. And I couldn't find a group specifically that felt like my people. And God always kind of does me like that. He's like, well, then why don't you do it? And then I'm like, no. And then God and I wrestle, and then God wins. And this is the story of my life. Again, talk about that if Fear's Not the Boss of You. So I started my coaching group for that reason. And, now we're 4.5 years later with 2,000 paying members every month. And that's my favorite thing that I get to do is coach in there. Find a group. If not mine, somebody else's. Mine isn't even open right now. I mean, if you send me a DM, we can chat about that, but mine's not even open. Find a group of people that you can do this together with, because listen, your spouse loves you, but it's probably you doing the business and not them. You can't expect them to have the same passion, also understand all of the complexities of what's going through your brains as what you can another woman who's going through the same thing. You just can't. I can expect my best friend who's a surgical nurse, and my other best friend who works for a telecom company. I can't expect them to understand the vulnerability of doing a Facebook Live. It's not their world. Just like I can't understand Laura's world of going into surgery and taking out somebody's appendix. You know what I'm saying? Like, we can't expect people to get it. But what we can do is we can find a group of people who are knee deep in the duty with us and who absolutely get it. And those are the people you talk shop with. Those are the people that you figure things out with, and you verbally process with, and you ask all the questions to. Those are the people that you do that with. Find a coach, find a group. In the beginning, I was very lonely. Because you guys, when I started this business 20 years ago, business coaching, I didn't even think was a thing. When I started the online space 10 years ago, I didn't know any coaches. It wasn't until about 6 years ago, I found out that there's such a thing as business coaching, and I hired my first one as quickly as possible. And I'm like, yes, change my business, change my life. And I did both of those things. Life's way too short to be on the struggle bus by yourself. Seriously. And, it's interesting to me. So many people will say, I can't afford a coaching group. I told somebody the other day, she said, how much is your coaching group? I said, you can get in right now for $47. And she said, 47? I thought it was like $500 a month. And I'm like, no. It's interesting how people like automatically assume things. And so don't just automatically assume. Reach out to people. Find somebody that can coach you one-on-one. Find a mentor. Find somebody. Because I can tell you this, I don't know any single person who is doing business solo and being successful. I just don't. Because you need community. You need people to bounce things off of. You need people to speak life into you and your business. You need them to speak good things over your business. If you're in my coaching group, you get prayed over your business. But it's so much better doing it with somebody. I promise you that. So don't do it alone. 5th thing, I wish I had started my email list like 20 years before I did. So a lot of times what happens with the entrepreneurs that I coach is they're focusing on Facebook and Instagram and Pinterest, which are the 3 things that I really want you to focus on. but they kind of put the email list off because they say, I don't even have a website yet. Or they say they don't like to get emails, therefore they really don't want to start an email list. And I'm always like, okay, but just because that's not the way you like to communicate, that does not mean that that's not the way your client likes to communicate. The truth of the matter is data don't lie. Okay. So if we're just basically like boiling everything down to data and to the numbers and everything else, I have 500,000 social media followers. I have 100,000 people on my email list. So 5 to 1. Okay. But I make 75% of my sales off of my email list. 75% of my sales are off my email list. And I have a fraction of the people on my email list versus social media. The people who actually get on your email list, they are your real fans. They are your real followers. They are really the ones who are wanting to hear from you. And it's interesting, the psychology, because a business owner will tell me, well, I don't want to bug people by emailing them. Friend, they gave you your email, their email address, knowing you were going to email them. Like they didn't give you their email address and assume you're going to show up on their door. They didn't give you their email address and assume you were going to call them. They gave you the email address, assuming you're going to email them. Do what they're expecting you to do. They're expecting to hear from you. And if your emails are boring, like change it. I think my email last week was a picture of me going to get my eyebrows done. Maybe that's the one that's coming out tomorrow. I'm probably ruining it. Look like Groucho Marx though. But start your email list. It is shocking to me how many business owners don't have one. Listen, when my Facebook page went missing for 3 days a couple of years ago, that's what solidified in my brain for me. I can never rely on social media totally. You don't own your social media. You're renting space. You know, I wrote the book, Fear is Not the Boss of You, but let me tell you what is the boss of you. Facebook rules. Let me tell you what is the boss of you. Instagram algorithms. Those are the boss of you, okay? And so the only thing that you have control over that's not the boss of you is your email list. You can grow that in any way you want, and you can use it in any way you want. And there's nobody with rules and, you know, terms of service and things, or they can just decide, you know, to take your account down for who knows what reason. Get an email list. I actually have, if you want a freebie, I think it's don't quote me on this. Can somebody help me out here? JenniferAllwood.com/email list. I'm positive, 94.6% positive that is the link to a freebie where you can get some help on your email list. So listen, the 5 things I wish that I had known before I went online. Bigger is not always better. You are not for everyone. And also 2.5 was quit looking at your numbers. Point number 3 was I wish I hadn't let fear stop me. Point number 4 was quit doing it alone. Get a coach, get a group. And 5 was work on the email list, sister. That is what I wanted to share with you today. Listen, if you didn't know, I'm on YouTube. I know my kids are mortified, but we've been growing our YouTube for the last year. And I'm super proud of that there, but you can actually watch my podcasts on YouTube because technology is cool. So if you go over to YouTube, look for Jennifer Allwood, because again, we're not real fancy. We keep it consistent, and hit the subscribe button, and then you will be notified anytime I have a podcast over there. So I hope this was helpful, you guys. For those of you who are still buying Fear is Not the Boss of You, and you're still going to Amazon and you're leaving me all the reviews, you are my absolute favorite. Thank you from the bottom of my heart, honestly, for telling people about my book, hosting your book clubs, your Bible studies. You guys are amazing. All right, friends, until next week, be blessed. Bye-bye.